Welcome to Unbundling Embedded Finance, your insight into the future of financial services. Today's guests are Tristan Holl, Head of Product Architecture, and Peter Hüftlein, Vice President of Core Banking. Enjoy the show. So welcome to the fourth episode of Unbundling Embedded Finance. And today we're going to talk about all things core banking technology. And for that, I have two very awesome guests from Solaris, Peter and Tristan. So could you both briefly introduce yourselves and say a little bit about what you do at Solaris?
I will go first. I'm Tristan Holl. I'm living in Berlin. I worked for Solaris since 2015. I started in the very beginning when the company was set up in a company builder. Started in engineering, transitioned to product, had various roles. One important role for this conversation obviously was the product architecture role, where we defined our banking architecture of the future and how we are going to run Solaris in the future.
Oh, that's great. So you've been with Solaris a while.
For quite a while, yes.
Today's term.
That's super interesting.
Cool. Thanks for that. And Peter, can you follow that up with a nice intro?
Yeah, Peter Hüftlein, working for Solaris since December 2020, so not as long as Tristan. I'm one of the product VPs, and I'm taking care of our in-house core banking solution, or what we in Solaris define as core banking. I think we will talk about that in detail a little bit later. I'm in banking since over 20 years, and you can kind of split my career between two parts: traditional banking and fintech, where I got into 2014, and then continued my journey in Solaris.
Oh, wow, that's actually great to have you on the call, so you can talk about both of your experiences from the traditional and the fintech side. That's really great. So just to open things up so if we were building a bank from scratch, what would that look like? Tristan or Peter, have at it.
That's an amazing question. I think not many people can answer in their career to get the opportunity to build it from scratch. I think it comes with great opportunity because you don't have to care a lot about legacy systems. But on the other hand, you're obviously not starting with a huge organization, so you have to spend your resources very wisely and decide where you spend them in the very beginning, where you can make a difference. And I would say you should always keep in mind to not fall into the same trap as traditional banks, that you build something that basically stops you from innovating at some point in the near or further future.
Oh, thanks. Great answer. Peter, can you follow up on that?
Well, I would do it like Solaris is right now, not as Solaris started, because we also had quite a journey to be there where we are now. But, hitting all the buzzwords, go into the clouds, avoid big chunks of software, don't be monolithic. This is something we are breaking up right now. Go real time, go horizontal. I could continue with that, but that's how we are, and it's working.
Great. Thank you for that small intro into what it's like to build a bank from scratch. So I guess the most important part of this conversation is of course, core banking. So what is core banking? Tristan, can you start with this?
Yeah, that's actually a very interesting question, because I think core banking is not clearly defined in the industry. Like everyone has a different interpretation of what is part of a core banking system and what is not. I would say core banking domain defines what is necessary system-wise and processual to run a bank in a compliant way. And obviously this how you cut this underneath this definition in the system landscape then is more or less up to the individual bank. We have a very specific interpretation of it, which I think serves us very well. And what was also the precondition for all of our efforts into building some of the things ourselves and source best-in-class providers from the market in other areas.
Thanks. Peter, I'm sure you have some thoughts on this as well.
Yeah, the issue with most of the legacy core banking system is that they try to cram every functionality in there which is somehow requested. And then you create these static monolithic systems. And our agenda is more like, don't put everything in there. Make it slim, make it fast, make it flexible, but don't try to solve every use case with the core banking system. There are other systems. You could put the stuff elsewhere. You can do it before or you can do it later, but keep it easy.
Keeping it easy is always, I guess, easier said than done. And there's a lot of, I guess, guiding clients or prospective clients on your behalf in terms of like helping them actually find what they need. So in terms of like executing all this, we're building a bank from scratch. So how do you execute at Solaris? Tristan, can you start here?
Maybe I start in the very beginning because I was there. So in the very beginning, you're working under a lot of constraints in the very beginning, resource-wise and also knowledge-wise. So for us, it was very important to focus on the areas where we could make a difference very early to validate our business model as a bank, as Solaris back in the days. That's why I think it's, even though we have migrated out of a let's say legacy system, I think it was the right choice back then because we had a very small team and we learned along the way a lot about how core banking should actually look like for us. If we would have started from scratch, building everything ourselves from the beginning, I think this wouldn't have been possible. So this iterative approach to get feedback very quickly from the market, from partners, also from all the other stakeholders like the Bundesbank, our clearinghouse, was very valuable to define our own system and what we want to do ourselves and what we want to source from the market because we don't see a competitive edge.
Okay, thanks. And Peter?
Yeah, it's like find, as I mentioned before, kind of find your scope, what you're gonna do, and find your vision you're having for that product, where you wanna go in the future. Like for us, for our core banking system, it's like being partner agnostic. Okay. And not specialize too much in certain areas, because for that we have other layers which will do that. That is not always easy. It also can lead to certain issues, but there's always a way to get around this or find a workaround. And also, and that's kind of a classic. Complete things. Don't rely on workarounds or half-written processes. But really, and that's really also important, especially important in core banking. It's such a crucial system. Finalize things and then continue.
Yes, that's great. So you mentioned you are partner agnostic. Could you explain a little bit about what that means?
We have multiple layers in Solaris Bank. So we have one system where all the identities of the customers are the customer entity with their identities. Then we have our partners where our end customers are kind of customers too, even though they are legally our customers. And all these partners might have different features. Like it's like a toolbox of products. You have an account, you have might have a card, might be virtual, might be physical, and other things. You might have different payment rails. And in the end, the core banking system, being the kind of the box or the basis of the box where all these product features are in, doesn't care what partner or customer that is. It just does things which are advised to or enforced to by the other product layers. Like, for example, if we pay out a loan, which is the loan itself is hosted in a different system, the different system just pings the core banking system that please do a payout, an outgoing SEPA transfer. And the core banking system doesn't care if this is a loan payout. It just gets the information and does its job in that case.
Oh, thanks for that explanation. So the connectivities, I'm guessing by API then.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, those are pretty crucial for your interface between you and any other third-party systems.
Yeah.
And that
And
allows,
literally every function we are building in core banking has an API. That's the mission statement.
I think this is also what sets us apart, because we had to build it in this way. Everything had to be an API, because we don't rely on say the classical software development stack where you have everything in one system, including the front end. For us, the front end is the API, and what is built on top of this might be a front end for a human or might be a machine that is talking to our API. And this is what I would say sets us apart by starting so late into the whole development of core banking systems with a very modern system and stack.
no, those are very good answers. And so next up, we've touched on it a little bit. I think Peter, I think you mentioned cloud. One of you mentioned cloud, and of course that's very, as you know, since it's your business, that's very important. So can we dig a little bit more into that? Like, what role does the cloud play in core banking for you?
Well, it's most important to have that. I mean, if you go back to in history a little with these on-premise solution banks were having. I mean, that's not longer that can't be a thing anymore, because it's not a fit for purpose for downtimes. It's highly expensive, and then you have the cloud where they literally do everything for you, and they even give you an architecture where you can build on, which is highly scalable. I mean, I have seen it personally. I'm not a tech guy, but it's amazing when we did a core banking migration last year. And it's amazing when engineering comes and said, okay, give me 5 minutes. We need a faster server. And then they go into that cloud portal, click some buttons, and all of a sudden, you scale like 10 times faster than 5 minutes before. I can't do that with a piece of metal in a data center, which is in the basement of my building. These times are over. And that's the one aspect. And then the other one aspect is, it's not quite directly to your question, but I mean, we are now in generation Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, whatever. So people in general are used to high responsiveness, availability, user experience, and so. And banks are not doing that these days. And the cloud, as all these applications I just mentioned are built on cloud, the cloud helps us with at least going into that direction regarding responsiveness, availability, and so on. And that's great. And that should be the baseline for every bank. And we can use that and build on top and be even better.
Oh, thanks. Tristan, do you have anything to add to that wonderful explanation about cloud banking?
No, it was a great explanation. I would add to this. I think as a business, you have to ask yourself if your business is really to build something on bare metal servers, or if your expertise is somewhere else. And I think for us, it's clear we are a company that wants to offer APIs, but our expertise is definitely not lifting bare metal into an infrastructure. There are other companies that have done this. There are other companies that have scaled on this, and it's on the market. And if you don't want to hire a significant portion of infrastructure engineers into your company, I think it's not worth to think about an on-premise solution. Then better go with the cloud providers that give you a lot of flexibility and a lot of solutions you could have never built yourself.
And you also, I think, did you just touch on the difference between like a lifted cloud solution and then like a cloud native solution?
Started on premise because of primarily regulatory reasons, and was not really clear if we can use the US clouds in the very beginning. And that brought us some limitations in the beginning on how to develop software. And after we have figured out how to run on the public cloud, it opened a huge toolbox to build better systems in every aspect. How to monitor systems is handled way better than it was 5 years ago. Or getting something off the ground in a new technology stack would have required a significant investment in understanding how to set up the infrastructure first in the past. And now this comes out of the box, is readily usable from the cloud provider. It's just the velocity went up significantly in this development. And yes, cloud native makes it easier to build resilient solutions.
Oh, yeah, that's a great. So in terms of a timeline, it would probably vary per project, I would imagine, but it seems like this would be a lot faster to sort of get your bank off the ground if you were building one from scratch than sort of trying to build an on-premise system with the mainframes and all those other sort of archaic things.
Yes, of course. Building on a public cloud, just the tool, they are providing amazing toolboxes in every aspect. If you want to have a database, you have the free choice what database you want to have. If you want to have a storage solution, there are 3 storage solutions which are basically endless. You don't have to buy hard drives and put them in a server. You can just put the objects into the data storage and then let AWS or any other cloud provider figure it out how they put this onto bare metal. So you're just cutting off a lot of the necessary thought process on how you handle things if you go to a public cloud.
Thanks. That's great. We've also touched on this. Peter, you said you're partner agnostic, but in your business, you do have technical partners, I imagine.
Yes.
So what's their role?
There are certain things which we did not build on our own. I wouldn't say that we might not in the future, but right now it is the case. For example, we are using a provider who gives us connectivity to Swift. Because again, Swift is still a legacy product somehow, even though it's everywhere and you can't get around it. But software-wise, it's a mess, and it's good when you have somebody who helps you there. Even though, and now we are at a point you were mentioning, their software is unfortunately not cloud native, but we put it in the cloud somewhere, and it's sometimes it's a challenge to have it there, to have like old system into this very modern environment. That's one thing. So they're making that better than we would do, and that's an effort we are not want to take. And then also there are, especially core banking and payments, there are providers who give you also better potential better connectivity. For example, we are using another provider to the SEPA instant rails for the connectivity to TIPS, because that gave us faster time to market and also additional knowledge we didn't have, and it saved us resources.
Tristan, do you have anything to add to that?
I think in general, having it in our own hands gives us a lot of flexibility in choosing the right partners and providers to work with, because we literally don't have to file a change request at our core banking system provider, wait for weeks or months to get an answer if they even see a value in integrating an external provider. If we think this provider helps us, it's up to us to integrate. And it also helps us to be a bit provider agnostic, because we are not relying, we have integrated a single provider, but it doesn't mean we couldn't exchange providers if it needs to be, like if we go into a different market, or if we think there's a better provider out there. So it enables us to be very flexible on the decision which part of our core banking domain should be served by what provider and what we want to build ourselves.
So what do you think the future for core banking holds?
It's an interesting question, because my opinion is that many of these seasoned core banking providers are faking it a little, because the future is obviously going cloud for them. But they are now all saying we are in the cloud. But when you ask them, it's their own cloud, where there is not much difference between, talking again about the metal in the cellar. It's literally the same. It's just in their own data center, which is kind of acting like a cloud. And there are not many core banking providers out there who are like real cloud native. Like Mambo would be one of them, for example. And nobody else comes to my mind, to be honest. Except Oracle. They use the Microsoft cloud, I guess. No, they use their own cloud, but it's a bigger one than like the ones of Finastra or whatever provider you have, or Temenos. And And just can say more cloud, real cloud, leverage the functionalities of others, which are built by one company. And break up monoliths more and more, go into specialized microservices, just to be faster and more agile. And also there, and that's also a shout out to the legacy providers. I mean, 2 releases a year. No, we are doing, I think, 600 a month or so. And that's how you also reduce risk, and also can be more agile than you will ever be with a slower release cycle.
Oh, thanks for that, Peter. So Tristan, what does the future have in store for core banking?
I think if we look onto the market, there will be a consolidation, because there are still plenty of legacy core banking providers that are serving banks, and those banks in the next 5 to 10 years have to ask themselves how they want to go on in the future, if they want to exchange their core banking platform or not. And I think there will be a tendency towards more modern players that don't have 1 or 2 release cycles a year, but are more in this continuously delivery model, because the market pressure is just to deliver features faster than once a year. We will see a heavy consolidation on the market, and specifically new player startups. There's no chance the startup will go with one of the legacy providers, I would say, because it's not their DNA. I mean, the DNA has to match, and this is what we have also seen in the past with providers. One of the most important aspects is that you are on the same page if you discuss the future and the integration. And sometimes it fails on this more personal note than on the technology. And if your company DNA is not fitting to what the startups require, you will not be the provider of choice.
Oh, that's a great note to end on. Very well said, Tristan. So just as a small recap, today we've talked about the ins and outs of core banking. We've covered, of course, the very important thing of cloud. You can gain speed and flexibility, and the also equally as important part of technical partners as well. So thank you, Tristan and Peter, for this wonderful conversation, and take care.
Thank you for having us here.
You've just been listening to Unbundling Embedded Finance, your insight into the future of financial services. Today's guests were Tristan Holl, Head of Product Architecture, and Peter Hüftlein, Vice President of Core Banking. Unbundling Embedded Finance is brought to you by Solaris Finco and Cognito Media Amsterdam. Thanks for listening.